The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council gleamed with polished metals and shimmering force fields. Representatives from 100 advanced civilizations sat in tiered seating, their many eyes and sensing organs all focused on the small group of humans standing nervously at the center. Commander Jack Wells straightened his uniform jacket, feeling sweat trickle down his back despite the climate control. He stood beside Dr. Maya Reed, whose fingers fidgeted with the edges of her presentation tablet. Behind them, 5 other crew members of the Artemis waited, trying to appear confident despite the wave of whispers and barely concealed snickers that swept through the alien audience. "The Council recognizes Earth delegation," announced the presiding elder, a tall being with silvery skin and 4 arms. "You may present your vessel's capabilities." Maya stepped forward and activated her holographic display. Above them, a rotating model of the Artemis appeared, sleek, with unusual geometric patterns along its hull and a core that pulsed with soft blue light. "Distinguished representatives," Maya began, her voice stronger than she felt, "we present the Artemis, humanity's first 7th-dimensional vessel." A ripple of laughter spread through the chamber. Not the polite kind, but the mocking type that needed no translation. "The Artemis doesn't just travel through space," Maya continued, speaking louder. "It interacts with the dimensional fabric in ways that will likely get you all killed," interrupted Ambassador Trell of the Orient Collective, his purple tentacles waving dismissively. "Humans have been spacefaring for what? Barely 50 Earth years. My civilization mastered the 5th dimension before your species discovered fire." More laughter filled the chamber. Jack clenched his jaw but remained silent. This was exactly what they had expected. "Ambassador," Maya replied calmly, "we understand your concern, but our approach differs from conventional dimensional technology. We're not attempting to force our way through dimensional barriers. The Artemis harmonizes," snorted a reptilian delegate, scales flashing with amusement. "Listen to your primitive terminology. You speak of advanced physics like it's one of your Earth musical instruments." The display shifted to show complex equations and field diagrams. Maya tried to explain the theory behind their breakthrough, but few were even pretending to listen now. "Enough," the presiding elder finally said, raising a hand. "Earth's creative approach is noted. However, Council safety protocols require extensive testing before experimental vessels can operate in shared space. Until such time, the Artemis is restricted to your home system." Jack finally stepped forward. "With respect, Elder, we've already completed extensive testing. The Artemis is fully operational and safe." "Safe?" Ambassador Trell laughed openly now. "Your species thinks nuclear fission is advanced technology. You've barely mastered rudimentary hyperdrive while we've been folding space for millennia." As the delegation left the chamber, Engineering Officer Tom Fletcher leaned toward Jack. "That went well," he muttered. "About as expected," Jack replied, his voice low. "They've been treating us like amusing children since first contact. They see us as primitive curiosities, not equals." Outside in the corridor, Maya's shoulders slumped. They didn't even look at the data. "The math is solid. The 7th dimension isn't just another spatial dimension. It's fundamentally different from what they've been exploring." Jack placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "They'll see soon enough. We didn't come here for their approval, Maya. We came to fulfill the diplomatic requirement of registering a new vessel class." "What now, Commander?" asked Medical Officer Lisa Patel, her dark eyes concerned. Jack looked at his crew, Earth's finest minds, chosen for this mission, not just for their skills, but for their resilience. "Now, we return to the Artemis and prepare for launch." They've had their laugh. He glanced back at the council chambers, where delegates were still chuckling about the primitive humans and their absurd theories. But they won't be laughing for long. Back aboard the Artemis, docked at the edge of council space, Dr. Maya Reed sat alone in her lab. The walls were covered with equations and diagrams, some digital, some scrawled on actual paper. Old habits died hard for her. Something about the physical act of writing helped her think. The mocking laughter of the council delegates still echoed in her mind. She had expected skepticism, but not outright dismissal without even examining her work. Coffee. Maya looked up to see Jack standing in the doorway, holding 2 steaming cups. He crossed the room and set one beside her. "Thanks," she said, taking a grateful sip. "Did you see the message from Earth Command?" Jack nodded. "They want a full report on the Council's reaction. I left out some of the more colorful insults." "Probably for the best," Maya said with a small smile. She gestured to her main screen where complex mathematical models rotated slowly. "You know what bothers me most? They're so sure they understand dimensional physics. They've been traveling through higher dimensions for thousands of years, but they never stopped to really listen to what those dimensions were telling them." Jack pulled up a chair. Unlike most of the crew, he actually understood much of Maya's work. Before joining Earth's space program, he'd been a physics professor himself. "Show me again," he said. "Help me see what they're missing." Maya's eyes lit up. She tapped her tablet, and the room darkened as a holographic model appeared between them. A complex, twisted structure that seemed to fold in on itself in impossible ways. "Every spacefaring race in the galaxy thinks of dimensions the same way," she explained. "First dimension is a line. Second is a plane. Third is space as we normally experience it. Fourth adds time. Fifth and sixth add spatial complexities that allow for their version of faster-than-light travel." She manipulated the model, showing how conventional ships tunneled through these dimensions. But they all make the same mistake. They see dimensions as just different ways to move from point A to point B. They're using them as roads. Jack watched as she changed the model again. "And the 7th dimension isn't a road." "Exactly." Maya's fingers danced across the controls. "The 7th dimension isn't a path. It's a connection point, a place where reality itself is malleable, where energy and matter intersect with the fundamental building blocks of the universe." The hologram shifted to show the Artemis' unique engine core. "We don't travel through the 7th dimension. We tap into it. We communicate with it. The council races have been so busy trying to bulldoze their way through dimensions, they never considered trying to speak their language." Tom Fletcher appeared at the lab entrance. "Sorry to interrupt the science lesson, but we've got a situation." Jack straightened. "What kind of situation?" "Message from Earth," Tom replied, his expression serious. "They're receiving distress signals from multiple races. Some kind of quantum anomaly has formed in the Cygnus sector. It's growing rapidly, and none of the advanced races can contain it." Maya's eyes widened. She quickly pulled up star charts of the Cygnus sector. "How bad?" Jack asked. "Bad enough that the council races are evacuating 3 inhabited systems," Tom said. "They're calling it a Class 1 dimensional rupture." Maya's fingers froze over her controls. "That's impossible. The odds of a natural Class 1 rupture are astronomical." "Natural or not, it's happening," Tom replied. "And here's the interesting part. Earth Command has received a direct request from the Council." Jack raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "For us," Tom said. "Specifically for the Artemis. Whatever's happening out there has them scared enough to ask for help from the primitive humans." Maya and Jack exchanged looks. The scientist's expression shifted from surprise to determination. "Well," Jack said, rising to his feet, "I guess they're about to see what the 7th dimension can really do." The bridge of the Artemis hummed with activity as the crew prepared for emergency departure. Status reports flowed in from every section of the ship while outside. Through the viewing ports, they could see the Council station's docking arms pulling away. "Status report," Commander Jack ordered, settling into the command chair. "Engineering reports all systems green," Tom replied from his station. "The 7th dimensional core is stable and ready." Lisa Patel, at the communications array, turned toward Jack. "Commander, we're receiving updated emergency broadcasts. The quantum anomaly in Cygnus has grown by 30% in the last hour. The Vex Empire has already evacuated 2 planets and is struggling with the third. Jack nodded grimly. The Vex, one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy and known for their mastery of quantum physics, were running scared. That told him everything he needed to know about the severity of this crisis. Navigation, plot the fastest course to Cygnus Sector, HFY system, Jack ordered. Maya entered the bridge, her face flushed with excitement despite the dire situation. She carried a tablet displaying rapidly changing calculations. "I've been analyzing the data from the Council," she said, connecting her tablet to the main display. "This isn't a natural phenomenon." The main screen filled with swirling patterns of energy and light, a visual representation of the anomaly. "How can you be sure?" Jack asked. "The energy signature," Maya explained, pointing to specific wave patterns. "Natural dimensional ruptures have chaotic patterns. This has structure to it, almost like a deliberate tear in spacetime." "Are you saying someone caused this?" Lisa asked, her voice dropping. "Not necessarily on purpose," Maya clarified. "But I think someone was experimenting with dimensional technology they didn't fully understand. The pattern suggests a failed attempt to access something." Jack frowned. "We can worry about blame later. Right now, can we stop it?" Maya's eyes gleamed. "That's just it, Jack. This is exactly what the Artemis was built for. The Council races are trying to use brute force to close the tier, dimensional dampeners, reality anchors, quantum stabilizers. But they're fighting against the fundamental nature of the anomaly. And we won't fight it," Jack said, beginning to understand. "Exactly. The Artemis doesn't fight dimensional forces, it harmonizes with them. We can use the 7th dimensional core to establish a resonance pattern with the anomaly, then gradually shift that pattern toward stability." The navigation officer looked up. "Course laid in, Commander. Estimated arrival at Cygnus in 23 minutes at maximum dimensional shift." "All hands, prepare for dimensional translation," Jack announced over the ship-wide system. "Secure all stations for possible turbulence upon arrival." As the crew completed final preparations, a new transmission came through. Lisa patched it to the main speakers. "Earth vessel Artemis," came the familiar voice of Ambassador Trell, all mockery now absent. "This is Counselor Trell. Be advised that the situation has deteriorated further. The Prothean reality anchors have failed completely. The Vex quantum stabilizers are barely functioning. We have never seen anything like this." Jack exchanged glances with Maya. "We're on our way, Counselor." "Commander Wells," Trell continued, his voice lower, almost humbled. "The Council wishes to convey that any assistance you can provide will be appreciated." "Acknowledged," Jack replied simply. "Artemis out." As the communication ended, a brief silence fell over the bridge. Then Tom spoke what everyone was thinking. "Funny how quickly primitive humans become valuable allies when the advanced races run out of options." Jack looked at the tactical display, showing the gathered fleets of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations, all helpless before the growing anomaly. "Let's not celebrate yet," he said. "We still have to make this work." He turned to Maya. "Are you certain about this? No time for second thoughts." Maya's gaze was steady. "I've never been more certain of anything in my life. The mathematics is sound." Jack nodded once, then addressed the helm. "Take us in." The stars outside blurred as the Artemis leaped into dimensional space, racing toward a crisis that had brought the mightiest powers in the galaxy to their knees. The Artemis emerged from dimensional shift at the edge of the Cygnus sector. The sight that greeted them stole the breath from everyone on the bridge. Where there should have been the orderly dance of planets around the HFY star, there now pulsed a massive, swirling vortex of energy. Colors that had no names in human language twisted through the fabric of space. At the center, a dark tear seemed to lead nowhere and everywhere at once. "My God," whispered Lisa, her dark eyes wide with awe and fear. Around the anomaly hovered the combined fleets of a dozen advanced civilizations, massive Vex dimensional dampeners, each the size of Earth's moon, formed a ring around the disturbance. Sleek Prothean vessels projected reality anchors, beams of concentrated energy designed to stabilize disrupted spacetime. None of it seemed to be working. "Magnify Sector 3, Jack ordered, pointing to a distant part of the fleet. The screen zoomed in to reveal 3 enormous Vex evacuation carriers, their hulls crowded with rescue pods. A 4th carrier was visibly breaking apart as tendrils of energy from the anomaly reached out like hungry fingers. "Incoming transmission," Lisa announced. "Multiple channels." "Put them through," Jack said. The main screen split into sections, each showing the face of a different alien commander. Jack recognized several council members among them, including Ambassador Trell. "Earth vessel," began the Vex fleet commander, a being of shimmering blue energy contained within a mechanical shell. "Your arrival is unexpected. But welcome," added Trell, his purple tentacles subdued. "The situation has grown beyond our control. We've lost 2 Vex carriers and 1 Prothean battleship already." "We're registering your vessel's energy signature," said another alien, this one with metallic scales and multiple eyes. "It's unusual. What exactly do you intend to do?" Jack glanced at Maya, who nodded confidently. "We're going to stabilize the anomaly," Jack stated simply. A ripple of reactions passed through the alien commanders, some skeptical, others desperate enough to hope. "Impossible," declared the Prothean commander, his crystalline features rigid. "We've deployed our most advanced reality anchors with minimal effect. Your small vessel cannot possibly." "With respect," Maya interrupted, stepping forward, "your technologies are attempting to fight against the dimensional current. We have a different approach." Jack turned to his navigation officer. "Plot us a course directly to the edge of the anomaly's effect radius." The young officer's hands hesitated over the controls. "Sir, that's within the zone where other ships have been destroyed." "I'm aware, Lieutenant." "Proceed." As the Artemis began moving toward the anomaly, frantic communications flooded their channels. "Earth vessel, you are entering a restricted danger zone. Pull back immediately. Your ship will be torn apart." Jack muted the incoming channels and addressed his crew. "I know what they're saying looks true, but I trust Dr. Reed's calculations, and I trust this ship. This is what we built the Artemis for." He turned to Maya. "Begin preliminary scans. I want a complete analysis of the anomaly's frequency patterns before we activate the core." Maya nodded and moved to the science station, her fingers flying across the controls. "The anomaly is pulsing in a quasi-regular pattern. It's definitely artificial in origin, though I doubt whoever created it intended this outcome." The ship shuddered as they crossed into the outer edge of the disturbance. "Hull integrity at 95%, Tom reported. "Minor fluctuations in the gravitational field." Through the viewport, they could see energy patterns washing over the Artemis's hull. Where these same energies had torn apart other ships, they seemed to flow around the unusual geometric patterns built into the Artemis exterior. "It's working," Maya said with quiet triumph. "The hull resonance patterns are already beginning to harmonize with the anomaly." Jack stood and moved to stand beside her, watching as the data flowed across her screens. "Now comes the hard part," he said quietly. "Are you ready to make history, Doctor?" Maya looked up at the swirling chaos outside, her eyes reflecting the impossible colors. "I've been ready my whole life," she replied. "Distance to anomaly core, 8,000 kilometers in closing," the navigation officer announced, his voice steady despite the growing vibrations that rattled through the ship. Through the main viewport, the crew of the Artemis watched as reality itself seemed to bend and warp. Light curved in impossible ways. Stars appeared to move, vanish, and reappear in different positions. The varied fabric of space trembled around them. "Hull integrity holding at 89%, Tom reported from his station. Warning indicators flashed across his console, but none had reached critical levels. The outer resonance panels are responding exactly as designed." Maya stood at the science station, her eyes darting between multiple displays showing energy patterns, dimensional frequencies, and structural integrity readings. She had prepared for this moment for years, but seeing her theories tested against a real dimensional rupture still filled her with both terror and exhilaration. "The anomaly's frequency is shifting," she announced. "It's responding to our presence." Jack moved to stand beside her, studying the readings. "Is that good or bad?" "Neither. It's curious." Maya pointed to a pulsing pattern on one of her screens. "It's like the anomaly is sensing us and adjusting itself, almost like it's reaching out." The ship shuddered more violently as they passed through another threshold of energy. Outside, tendrils of multicolored light began to reach toward the Artemis, not violently as they had with other ships, but almost like curious fingers exploring something new. 5,000 kilometers to core, navigation reported. Lisa looked up from communications. "Commander, the Council fleet is going crazy out there. They're demanding to know what we're doing. Some are predicting we're about to make the situation worse. Tell them to stand by," Jack replied without taking his eyes off Maya's readings. "And maintain our approach." Maya's fingers danced across her controls, making minute adjustments to the ship's resonance fields. "We're getting close to the optimal activation point. The seventh dimensional core needs to be aligned precisely with the anomaly's primary frequency." 3,000 kilometers, navigation called out. Another violent shudder ran through the ship. This time, several consoles sparked and emergency lights flickered. "Hull integrity at 82%, Tom reported, his voice tighter now. "We're approaching structural tolerances, Commander." Jack looked at Maya. "We need to make our move. Are we ready?" Maya's face showed concentration as she made final calculations. "Almost. The frequency pattern is there. I have it." She looked up, her eyes bright with determination. "We're ready." Jack returned to the command chair. "All hands, this is the commander. Prepare for seventh dimensional core activation. Secure all stations and brace for possible turbulence." He pressed a button on his chair. "Engineering. Begin power-up sequence for the core." "Power-up sequence initiated," came the reply from engineering. "Core temperature rising. Containment field stable." Maya watched her displays, calling out readings. Frequency match at 62%, 75%, 88%. Outside, the tendrils of energy grew thicker, wrapping around the Artemis, but not crushing it as they had other vessels. Instead, they seemed to pulse in rhythm with the ship's own energy signatures. "Core at 90% capacity," engineering reported. "Ready for full activation on your mark." Jack looked at Maya, who nodded once. "Activate the harmonic array," Jack ordered. Deep within the ship, the seventh dimensional core, a technology that had been mocked and dismissed by the greatest minds in the galaxy, surged to life. Unlike conventional engines that fought against dimensional forces, the core began to sing to them, creating a resonance pattern that matched the anomaly's own chaotic frequency. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The violent shaking of the ship suddenly ceased. The warning lights on Tom's console began to dim one by one. Outside, the tendrils of energy that had wrapped around the Artemis changed from random, threatening patterns to an organized, flowing dance. "It's working," Maya whispered, her voice filled with wonder. "The core is establishing harmony with the anomaly." Frequency match at 97%, engineering reported. "Core temperature stable." "We're doing it, Commander." Through the viewport, the crew watched as the swirling chaos of the anomaly began to pulse in rhythm with their ship. The Artemis wasn't fighting the dimensional rupture. It was dancing with it, speaking its language, becoming one with the very forces that had threatened to destroy the galaxy. "Open a channel to the Council fleet," Jack ordered, his eyes never leaving the magnificent sight before them. "Tell them we've begun." The Artemis hung suspended at the heart of the quantum anomaly, no longer a ship threatened by destructive forces, but a conductor orchestrating them. The vessel glowed with an inner light that pulsed in perfect rhythm with the surrounding dimensional energies. On the bridge, the crew watched in awe as reality itself seemed to bend to the will of their small ship. The violent vibrations had completely ceased, replaced by a gentle humming that resonated through the hull. "Power levels stabilizing," Tom reported, his voice hushed with wonder. "The core is operating at 110% capacity, but showing no signs of strain." Maya stood transfixed before her console, watching as data streamed across multiple screens. The mathematics unfolding before her eyes confirmed everything she had theorized. The seventh dimension wasn't just a pathway, but a fundamental connection to the energy structure of reality itself. "We're not just containing the anomaly," she said. "We're communicating with it. The ship is translating our intentions into a frequency the dimensional fabric can understand." Through the main viewport, they could see the chaotic energies that had threatened to tear apart star systems now flowing in orderly patterns around the Artemis. Like a river diverted into carefully planned channels, the destructive potential was being redirected, organized, and, most incredibly, harnessed. "Look at this," Maya called to Jack, pointing to one of her displays. "The anomaly's energy isn't disappearing. It's being converted into a structured form we can actually use." Jack joined her, studying the readings. "You mean we're not just stopping the disaster, we're turning it into fuel?" Maya nodded, her eyes bright with excitement. "The seventh dimensional core is absorbing the excess energy and storing it in a stable matrix. It's like we've built a dam in the middle of a flood, not just stopping the water but generating power from it." On the communication station, Lisa's console lit up with incoming transmissions. "Commander, we're being hailed by every ship in the Council fleet. They want to know what's happening." Jack nodded. "Put them through on the main screen." The screen activated to show the faces of various alien commanders, their expressions ranging from confusion to disbelief to awe. Ambassador Trell was at the center, his tentacles now completely still, a sign of extreme shock in his species. "Earth vessel," Trell began, his normally condescending tone replaced with something close to reverence. "Our sensors indicate that the anomaly is changing. Its destructive expansion has ceased." "Not just ceased," added the Vex commander, his energy form pulsing with agitation. "It appears to be contracting in a controlled manner. How is this possible? Our most advanced dimensional technology couldn't even slow its growth." Before Jack could respond, the Artemis shuddered slightly as another surge of energy flowed through the anomaly. The lights on the bridge flickered momentarily, then stabilized at a higher intensity. "Core capacity now at 125%, engineering reported. The excess energy is being converted and stored successfully." Maya turned to Jack, her face glowing with triumph. "We can do more than just stop it, Commander. We can close it completely." Jack studied her expression for a moment, then turned back to the screen of waiting alien commanders. "This is Commander Wells of the Earth vessel Artemis. We have established harmonic resonance with the anomaly, and are now beginning final containment procedures." "By the ancient stars," whispered the Prothean commander, his crystalline features reflecting the shifting lights. "They're not just containing it. They're harnessing it." Jack nodded to Maya. "Dr. Reed, proceed with the final phase." Maya turned back to her console and began entering a complex sequence of commands, initiating harmonic convergence pattern. This will gradually shift the anomaly's frequency toward closure. Outside, the organized streams of energy began to spiral inward, forming a tighter and tighter pattern around the Artemis. The ship's hull glowed brighter as it absorbed and processed the incredible power flowing through it. In the space where destruction had threatened, a beautiful dance of light and energy now unfolded, a demonstration of technology working with dimensional forces rather than against them. "By the void," Ambassador Trell spoke again, all traces of his former arrogance gone. "We have traveled the stars for 10,000 years, but never have we seen anything like this." Jack allowed himself a small smile as he watched the faces of those who had mocked humanity just days before. "The final containment sequence will take approximately 20 minutes, he informed them. "I suggest you move your vessels back to a safe observation distance." As the alien commanders hurried to comply, Tom leaned closer to Jack and whispered, "Not so primitive now, are we?" 3 days after the Artemis closed the quantum anomaly, Commander Jack Wells and Dr. Maya Reed stood once more in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council. The chamber, which had echoed with mocking laughter during their previous visit, now hummed with respectful murmurs and curious whispers. The tiered seating was filled to capacity. Representatives from every spacefaring civilization had assembled to witness this session, an unprecedented gathering. According to Council records, news of the Earth vessel's achievement had spread throughout the galaxy with remarkable speed. The Council recognizes the Earth delegation, announced the Presiding Elder, his 4 arms raised in the formal gesture of deep respect, a protocol typically reserved for civilizations that had existed for millennia. "Commander Wells, Dr. Reed, please step forward." Jack and Maya advanced to the center of the chamber. Behind them stood the entire crew of the Artemis, each wearing their dress uniforms with quiet pride. "In 10,000 years of Council history," the Elder continued, "we have never witnessed what your vessel accomplished in the Cygnus sector. You have demonstrated not merely technological achievement, but a fundamental shift in understanding dimensional physics." Ambassador Trell floated forward on his gravity platform. Gone was the condescending posture, replaced by something that looked remarkably like humility. "I speak for the Orion Collective, and indeed for many council races." Trell began, his voice solemn. "We must acknowledge our error. We dismissed your theories without examination. We labeled your achievements as primitive without understanding. This was not merely discourteous, it was unscientific." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. "Humanity has demonstrated wisdom beyond your years," the Council Elder declared. "While we mastered traveling through dimensions, you have shown us how to communicate with them." A tall, crystalline being, the Prothean High Scholar, approached with a data crystal hovering between her outstretched hands. "Our analysis of your vessel's performance has revolutionized our understanding," she said, her voice ringing like chimes. "We believed dimensions were roads to be traveled. You showed us they are forces to be harmonized with. This single insight may advance galactic science by centuries." Jack nodded respectfully, but kept his expression measured. "Earth is honored by your words, but we did only what any of you would have done if faced with such a crisis." "Perhaps," the Elder said, "but it required your unique perspective, unburdened by 10,000 years of established theory, to see what we could not." Maya stepped forward. "The greatest scientific advances often come from asking different questions, not just seeking better answers to old ones." The Elder nodded. "Indeed, and to honor this wisdom, the Council has voted unanimously on 2 matters." He paused, looking around the chamber. "First, Earth is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and privileges thereof, the fastest such appointment in our history." A round of applause, expressed in the various ways of dozens of different species, filled the chamber. "Second," the Elder continued when silence returned, "we request that Earth establish an interspecies research institute to share your dimensional harmonics technology with all Council races." Jack looked at Maya, who nodded slightly. "We would be honored," Jack replied. "Earth has always believed that knowledge should be shared for the benefit of all." As the formal proceedings concluded, the Earth delegation found themselves surrounded by representatives from dozens of worlds, each eager to establish scientific exchanges and diplomatic relations. Tom Fletcher made his way to Jack's side as they navigated through the crowd of aliens seeking to speak with them. "Quite a change from our last visit," Tom observed dryly. "Hard to believe these are the same beings who couldn't stop laughing at us." Jack watched as Maya was deep in conversation with 3 of the galaxy's most renowned physicists, all of them listening to her with rapt attention. "They're not laughing anymore," Jack said. "No," agreed Tom. "Now they're listening." Jack smiled as he looked around at the gathered representatives of civilizations far older than humanity's entire recorded history, all waiting respectfully to speak with Earth's scientists. "And that," he said quietly, is worth more than any technology we could have developed. In the weeks that followed, ships from across the galaxy would arrive at Earth, carrying scientists and diplomats eager to learn from the humans who had seen what the ancient races had missed. The seventh-dimensional vessel Artemis would become the template for a new generation of ships that worked with the universe rather than forcing their way through it. And deep in the Cygnus sector, where disaster had nearly struck, the stars continued their eternal dance, unaware that their preservation had marked humanity's true arrival on the galactic stage.